There is something quietly compelling about a person who chooses to operate in the shadows of public life, not out of shame or insecurity, but out of a deliberate and confident preference for privacy. Elena Musa is exactly that kind of person. While her husband, Greg Gutfeld, one of Fox News's most recognizable and sharp-tongued television hosts, commands attention on screens across America, Elena has carved out her own remarkable path in the world of fashion, one that is defined not by noise but by precision, taste, and an unwavering commitment to her craft. To understand her story is to appreciate a woman who has chosen excellence over exposure, and whose influence runs deeper than most people realize. Elena's journey began in Russia, where she first stepped into the fashion world as a model. Those early years were foundational in ways that would shape everything that followed. Modeling is not simply about appearance. It demands discipline, an acute awareness of how clothing interacts with movement and personality, and an understanding of visual storytelling that most people never develop. Elena absorbed all of it. The industry gave her an intimate education in aesthetics, poise, and the kind of attention to detail that separates truly great stylists from ordinary ones. She was not merely posing in front of cameras. She was learning a language, one she would eventually use to speak through the work of others. Her transition from modeling to editorial work marked the first major turning point in her career. She became a photo editor for Maxim Russia, a well-respected fashion publication, and in doing so, she shifted from being the subject of the camera's gaze to becoming the person who shaped what the camera captured. This role required a different kind of intelligence, one that combined creative instinct with editorial judgment. She developed a sharp eye for composition, for the way images could carry mood and meaning beyond what words alone could communicate. It was a natural evolution, but also a courageous one, because it meant reinventing herself at a stage when many would have been content to remain where they were comfortable. That willingness to grow, to step into unfamiliar territory and master it, would become one of the defining qualities of her professional life. From editorial work, the shift into styling felt organic. It drew on everything she had already learned, but demanded something more. Styling is not simply about choosing clothes. It is about constructing a visual identity, telling a story through fabric and form, understanding what a particular image needs to communicate, and then delivering that with confidence and clarity. Elena's background as a model gave her an edge that most stylists do not possess. She understood from the inside how garments behave, how they respond to the body, and how they contribute to or detract from the overall narrative of an image. That perspective made her work richer, more considered, and ultimately more compelling to the publications and photographers who sought her out. In 2011, Elena made her boldest move yet. She founded the Musa Project, her own design company, and in doing so, she stepped fully into the role of creative entrepreneur. This was not a small decision. Launching a business in the fashion industry requires not just artistic vision, but practical acumen, the ability to manage operations, build relationships, develop a brand, and sustain momentum in a market that is as unforgiving as it is glamorous. Elena brought all of these qualities to the venture. The Musa Project became a space where she could push beyond the constraints of editorial work and explore design in a more open, experimental way. It was a place for collaboration, for working with photographers, models, and fellow creatives who shared her sensibility and her standards. Through this project, she evolved from someone who executed other people's visions into someone who originated her own, and the fashion world took notice. Her reputation grew steadily and spread well beyond Russia. Elena's styling work began appearing in respected publications across different continents, each placement a testament to her ability to adapt her creative vision to different cultural contexts without losing what made it distinctly hers. She styled the August 2015 cover of Loishal Arabian, a prestigious publication with significant reach across the Middle East, demonstrating that her work could speak to audiences whose tastes and expectations were very different from those she had first learned to sieve. She contributed to the Paris edition of Loishal in 2014, which in many ways was the most significant marker of her international standing. Paris is the proving ground for fashion talent. To be recognized there, particularly as someone who had come up through the Eastern European fashion world, was a meaningful validation of everything she had built. She also contributed styling to an editorial for the South China Morning Post magazine in 2015, creating work under the theme of rustic femininity that demonstrated her capacity to weave together contrasting ideas into something cohesive and visually striking. Her editorial contributions extended to Harper's Bazaar Mexico in 2014, one of the most respected titles in the Americas, further confirming that her influence was genuinely global in scope. Throughout all of this, she maintained a deliberate distance from the kind of self-promotion that has come to define modern success in the creative industries. In an era where visibility is often mistaken for value, Elena made a different calculation. She kept her social media presence minimal, focused almost entirely on her professional work rather than her personal life, and allowed the quality of what she produced to speak on her behalf. That restraint is rare, and it has served her well. It has created an aura of mystery around her that actually enhances her reputation rather than diminishing it, because it signals that she is serious about her work in a way that those who constantly seek attention rarely are. The story of how Elena and Greg Gutfeld came together is one of those quietly romantic narratives that unfold slowly and sticks with you. They met in 2004 at a Maxim conference in Portugal, an international gathering of editors from the magazine's various global editions. Greg was a new editor of Maxim UK, and Elena was the photo editor of Maxim Russia. By the kind of coincidence that later seems like fate, they were assigned neighboring hotel rooms. Greg was drawn to her immediately, describing the attraction as something undeniable. Elena, characteristically, was not quick to reciprocate. She was focused on her work, naturally reserved, and not the kind of person to be swept up quickly in anything. Greg respected that. He was patient, consistent, and unhurried, allowing the connection to develop at its own pace over the course of several days. What began as hesitation slowly became curiosity, and then something far more significant. Not long after the conference, Elena made a decision that said everything about who she is. She chose to move to London to be with Greg. It was not a small or easy choice. It meant leaving behind everything familiar, the city she knew, the professional network she had built, the comfortable rhythms of her existing life. She made that leap on the basis of trust in what she and Greg were building together, and that instinct proved to be right. Just 5 months after they first met, they were married in a quiet civil ceremony in New York. No spectacle, no grand public gesture, just a clear and deliberate decision made by two people who knew what they had found. The speed of it surprised many from the outside, but it reflected certainty rather than impulsiveness. They were not rushing. They were simply not wasting time. Their early years together were not without challenge. Greg's position at Maxim UK ended in 2006, a professional setback that could have placed serious strain on a young marriage. Instead, it revealed the strength of what they had built. Elena was a steady presence through that uncertainty, and the relationship held firm while their professional paths shifted and evolved. That kind of resilience, the ability to remain solid as individuals and as a couple through difficulty, is not something that can be faked or manufactured. It comes from genuine respect and shared commitment, both of which have clearly been present in their relationship from the beginning. Over the years, Greg has expressed his admiration for Elena in ways that reflect the depth of his regard for her. He commissioned a portrait of her as a personal tribute, an act that combined artistic appreciation with emotional honesty. Their relationship, though carefully shielded from public scrutiny, shows itself in these kinds of moments, and in the selective, warm-hearted glimpses that Greg occasionally shares on social media, birthday tributes, light-hearted photographs, quiet acknowledgments of the life they share. Elena's own social media presence focuses primarily on fashion and interior design, offering a window into her aesthetic world without revealing the more intimate details of her private life. Together, they have established an approach to public life that is increasingly rare, one in which fame and privacy coexist, and in which the relationship itself is protected rather than performed. They share a home in New York City that serves as a creative sanctuary amidst the noise and pace of urban life. Their French bulldog Gus makes occasional appearances in Greg's posts, and adds a note of warmth and playfulness to the glimpses of their domestic world that reach the public. It is a small detail, but it speaks to something real, a life that is full, grounded, and genuinely happy, lived largely away from the gaze that their respective careers might otherwise invite. What makes Elena Moose's story so compelling is precisely this combination of genuine achievement and genuine privacy. She has built an international reputation in one of the most competitive and image-conscious industries in the world. She has done so across multiple countries, multiple cultural contexts, and multiple roles, as a model, a photo editor, a stylist, and an entrepreneur. She has earned recognition from some of the most respected publications in the Americas, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. And she has done all of it while maintaining a life that belongs to her, not to the public. That balance is difficult to achieve and even more difficult to sustain. Elena has managed both, and in doing so, she has quietly demonstrated that influence does not require visibility, and that a life well lived does not need an audience to be worth admiring.